Great. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a roundtable. We're going to be talking about the intersection of AI, IP, and design. And really, this began, I was working with Peter, and we'll do some quick intros, but I was working with Peter on creating a landing page. And I had, after he had sent me the initial design, I took it and I threw it into ChatGPT just to see what can be done, and I started working on creating email templates and some other things using the design that Peter and his team had created. And so we'll start with some introductions quickly, and then I'll pull up the work that I had done, and we'll talk about that some more. So whoever wants to start.
I'll go ahead. I'm Laura Winston. I'm a principal in the law firm of Offutt Kerman, and I handle copyright and trademark matters. And with the advent of AI, I've found myself getting involved with the issue of AI and protectability and copyrightability.
Great.
Hi, my name is Peter Kalanda. I own my own digital agency, Three Horizons Interactive. We're a full service agency, um, SEO, digital marketing, SEM, web design, nuts to bolts, kind of all digital strategy. And as Laura had mentioned, with the advent of AI, kind of we're looking at what kind of tools can help us grow, what kind of tools are out there that are maybe hindering and or improving the business. So it's kind of an interesting time to
Great.
see where everything's heading.
Thank you. And I'm Josh Varone from Varone Consulting. I do these things up here, but today we'll be focusing more on the AI side of it. So I do AI trainings for companies, um, school districts, libraries. So we'll jump in. I'm going to pull up my screen here. Okay. And so we're in ChatGPT now. This is the landing page that Peter and his team created. And what I've done is I've dropped it in, and I said make a flyer based on the same style. And you can see here, there's just I could edit this a little bit more. Often the new image generation does a little bit of cutoffs, but you can see it really took the same style and laid out this flyer. And then from there, I asked it to create an email template. And again, you can see the style is, I mean, certainly to the untrained eye, but my guess is, Peter, you can tell us, does this match your style pretty accurately?
I mean, yeah, it does. It's kind of amazing what it can do just from an initial design. Um, that brings all sorts of questions and you know how this is going to affect designers and digital marketers and kind of everyone going forward.
Right. And this is also something, Peter and I had an arrangement, and so this is work that he's doing for me, but also consider that I could go to any website publicly available, take a screenshot, drop it in, and have it do the same thing. So there are a lot of places where this could be potentially problematic. I also just wanted to push it a little, and so I said write the HTML for this email template, which it did it.
Yeah,
Right. So I
and
have
that when Josh did that prompt to write the HTML, I mean, that also gets into developers. What does this all mean for developers going forward?
right, right. So it's not just the design side of it, but it's the entirety of the process.
Yeah.
So you had ChatGPT create the image, and then you asked it to give you the HTML behind it.
Correct.
Hmm.
So we're starting with this amazing design that Peter and his team created. And then we're saying take that and use the same design to create, really whatever I want, right? I mean, I could have it create another landing page if I want, but I just had said make a flyer and then make an email template. And then beyond that, I said write the HTML.
Yeah, I mean, you could technically copy and paste into that HTML into a content management system, hit publish, and could be live right away. I mean, Sure, they'll need
Right.
some tweaks, but yeah,
So I'd say let's move into just some questions, right? And we can do this popcorn style. But I'll start with you, Peter. How does this make you feel? Like as a designer, as someone who does this work,
yeah.
what are some of the feelings that come up around this?
I mean, initially when I first started developing, kind of getting to where the point is, it's worrisome. There's feelings of what's going to happen to certain people's jobs. Where is this going to go? Um, like for example, there's services that I could go into and just put some prompts like Josh did too, and it just spits out a great design, and I could post it on social media, and I don't need a designer anymore. In the past, I would need someone to help me do those types of things. So yeah, it's a little scary. There's um, some great elements to it. Makes certain jobs and certain tasks easier. In the past, it would take me a little hours to do, for example, like titles and descriptions for SEO. Now it's a matter of seconds or minutes, but I feel like that you still need that expert, that look, that touch, that look, that feel to change some of these things, whether it be the design or content, because it's not perfect. If you're trained, if you're an expert, if you know what you're looking for, you still need that person behind all this stuff.
Right, right. And I mean, I'm proof of that, right? I work in AI professionally. I
Yeah.
did a video a few weeks ago talking about here's how I build a landing page using AI. And in that video, I said, I did this. It's a nice landing page. And still, I've hired Peter because I want the professional, right? And
Yeah,
I've
I
done
mean,
that.
you can even see, you know, um, from a design perspective, or even from Josh or Laura, you can even see kind of like the difference. You can see the difference. It doesn't look as good right now. Who knows what's going to be 2, 3, 4 years down the road? I mean, who knows? But a
I would even
designer, it
say
looks quite
six
much
months from now,
months from now. Yeah, I mean, it looks much
it's
better.
moving.
The designer, it was my brother. He designed it,
Mhm.
and it was. I mean, I was blown away by the design. I know Josh, you loved it too, and it
I
just
saw it. I made
so
that video. I had a little bit of like buyer's remorse after I made the landing page. I was like, like should I have just done it myself? And then that night I got the design, and I mean, you knocked it out of the park. So, a lot of spaces I'm working in, people are asking, am I going to be replaced? I
right.
did professional development at the local school district, and some people asked, but generally I saw it on everyone's face. And for me, AI is just another tool. I don't want my kids being taught by a machine. I want a person there. And I want a person who's a professional and understands how this works, right? Part of it is knowing how to use AI, and part of it is having that expertise. So maybe
So
Laura, you
one
also
question
want
that
to.
I have for you, Josh, as somebody who's, in the trenches with AI is, do you think we're going to get to a point where we no longer need the human involvement to refine it and make it something that doesn't look like it came from AI?
I think we're getting closer. And I think that there are certain spaces that are going to be impacted sooner, right? I think if you're in an industry like photography, or you're an illustrator, or you're doing stock footage, those are industries that are going to be impacted sooner. I mean, with the video generation tools that are out now,
Yeah.
if you're a filmmaker, you might be at risk, right?
Yeah,
And
I
even
was
with
going to
that,
say that. Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine put together a 30-second, 40-second video, and it looked like a TV show. It was pretty wild.
yeah. And again, there is nuance, right? If I just go and make a video now, I don't know, I don't know the terminology, right? I want it set in this frame. I want it to be this style. I don't know those. I don't have that in my vocabulary, right? Someone who's working in that space does. And so what I'm hopeful for is that these people who are in these industries will be able to leverage the technology to do way more, way quicker. But I don't think they're necessarily going to be replaced at this moment. You know, stock footage maybe, right? I mean, even some of the earliest demos of Sora, I showed them to people on in different courses, and we played a game. You know, which one is real, which one is not. There are even websites for this on, you know, which one was created with AI and which is real. Most people couldn't tell. So there will be that impact. I think it's going to be more dramatic than we've seen in the past. You know, I feel bad for all the people who worked in the toll booths. And also, I'm thrilled that I can whiz by with the Easy Pass now. You know, that was a small group of people, and hopefully they were able to land somewhere else. But I think a lot of those jobs are going to be automated. I also hired a VA through my network recently, and AI agents will probably replace a lot of those tasks. But in the meantime, it's good to have a person. Let's see what else. So maybe we could talk about some of the ethics, but also, you know, how that is impacted legally. So maybe you have some thoughts you want to start us off with, Laura.
So there's no question when you think about copyright and AI that the situation is messy. I think CNET said something to that effect, that the issue of copyright and AI is a mess. And the U.S. Copyright Office, which is in charge of issuing copyright registrations, is in the process of coming up with evolving guidance. And they put out a series of reports on copyright and AI, including one on what kind of human involvement is necessary for copyrightability. And I have to say that it's still not clear. One thing that is clear is that if you're creating an image or textual work, and you just keep putting in prompt after prompt, that's not going to be considered sufficient human involvement if you're just giving prompts to the AI, who's then generating the output. The U.S. Copyright Office has referred to that as just re-rolling the dice to try to get something that you like. Where you give a prompt and then the AI produces an image, and then you use whatever editing tools you have to dive in and manipulate and change it using your own creativity. That's arguably protectable under copyright. But where that line is and where that substantial involvement comes in is still a question and is still very much in flux. I've had a couple different situations. By the way, I just want to mention for people who may not know this, that if you create an original work, putting aside even the AI issue for a moment, if you create an original work, you own unless you've signed an agreement that someone else is going to own the copyright, you own the copyright just by virtue of having created it. Under US law, you can't sue somebody for infringement unless you then register it with the US Copyright Office. That's the reason why the US Copyright Office registers copyrights. So I've had a couple different situations where I've had clients who had AI involved in the work that they made and wanted to protect and register. And in one case was a tabletop game where we had a little bit of back and forth with the Copyright Office over the extent to which AI was used. And we demonstrated, you know, here's what the AI produced, and then here's what it looked like. And we did this with several images that were part of the work. We put side-by-side comparisons of this is what AI produced and this is what it looked like after the creator made all of the changes that they were making to turn it into their work. And that was registered by the US Copyright Office. I had another situation where we were trying to register a textual work. And we mentioned that it wasn't just prompts, but significant involvement by the author. And we essentially got a requirement to limit the copyright claim away from anything that had to do with AI use. So those are, I think, two different results that aren't necessarily, related to each other, because in one, they were open to this realization that there'd been substantial human involvement. In another, they seem to be closing the door on it. So it's still an evolving gray area, and it may be some time before it shakes down into an understandable policy and consistent policy.
Got it. So if I make a painting, no AI, just, using paints the old-fashioned way, that is copyrighted just by the fact that I made it. But you could potentially see that painting, take a picture, and do something with it. And unless I've actually registered it, that's okay. Right? Maybe not ethically,
It's
but
not
legally.
technically okay, but you don't have the recourse to go after somebody to do it unless you've registered the copyright.
Understood. And it sounds like the copyright department is asking about AI these days.
Yeah, you're
But
required to specify if you had AI involved in the creation of the work. And basically that's the can of worms that then gets opened. And they'll either ask you questions about it, or in the case, the second scenario that I described, effectively shut it down. Now, I will say that the creator has the opportunity to try to fight that determination. It's not the complete end of the story. This happens to be as far as we've gotten in that particular case.
got it. And so in the situation we're talking about, right? I paid Peter to create a design for me. And now I've taken that design that I own according to the contract. How does that play in this space? Like, am I free to do whatever I want with that now?
So generally speaking, the answer would be yes. If it's a work made for hire, and if it's a work made for hire, that's going to mean that you're technically the creator, even if your contractor was the one who created it. That gives you the right to do whatever you want with it. If it was created by AI only, and the contract doesn't speak beyond saying that you own the copyright in anything created by Peter, then really anybody could do anything they want with it. And you would be unlikely to have recourse if unless we can show and again, this is a situation where Peter may have put in a prompt and it spit out a work that you then used, that essentially would not be owned by you, at least the copyright piece of it. There's other other areas of the law where you might be able to go after somebody, trademark, unfair competition, but in the strict copyright sense, it would not be owned by anybody. The law is clear that there needs to be human involvement. And I don't think that that's ever going to change. What is going to have to change and become more clear is what that level of human involvement needs to be.
Right. Is it just the prompting, or is it the prompting and then the image is created, and then I'm like, oh, let me change this one little thing on the corner, and now human involvement, I've made it.
At the moment, that would not seem to qualify under the Copyright Office's position.
And what if I went the other way? Like, what if Peter made a wireframe by hand, we'll call it by hand, and then he put that into Chat GPT and said, okay, fill this out. Is that enough? Right. And it sounds like we're still not sure. Right? It sounds like we're going to be submitting these things to the copyright department. and they're going to be asking questions and letting us know, and hopefully some sort of policy will come out soon.
Yeah, hopefully
Another
that's an
thing,
interesting scenario that you raise when you start with an original work and then have the AI manipulate it. What happens there?
or what if I
It
start with a
may just
prompt?
be that the original work is the only thing that's going to be protectable by copyright. Um,
Hmm.
and you know, one thing to keep in mind is the AI output may be similar enough that you could rely on your rights in that original work if somebody were to directly
Right,
copy the AI result. But that you know, that's a pretty nuanced
right,
analysis in copyright law. But
right. Or what if I take a picture of, I don't know, I take a picture of the Mona Lisa, which isn't mine, obviously, and I say make an image based on this that looks like Peter. Like, how does
You
that?
do
And
it.
can I even put Peter's image in without his permission?
So
You
to the
know,
best of my knowledge, well, that's not a copyright question. That's a right of publicity question. And if you were going to do that and then disseminate it, the answer is likely no, you couldn't do that. But under copyright law, well, your example is interesting because the Mona Lisa, of course, is hundreds of years out of copyright, and basically anybody can do anything they want with the Mona Lisa, subject to, infringing on somebody's rights of publicity and things like that.
got it. Another thing we spoke about is Peter's contract, right? So does Peter have the legal opportunity, we'll call it, to put in his contract saying, I'm making this landing page design for you. You can use this. You cannot use AI to create alternate materials based on this design. Would that hold any legal weight?
Yes, and then it's not a copyright situation, but it would be enforceable under contract law that
Mhm.
that you couldn't then take it, manipulate it by AI and do something else with it. And that would be a smart thing to do if you want
Mm.
to make sure that somebody didn't take your design and then change it enough using AI to make it look not exactly like yours and run with it that way. So that is certainly a right that you could have via contract.
I feel like that's going to be happening more and more now.
Yeah, I think there's going to be AI clauses routinely
Yeah.
in these kinds of, agreements for creative works.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Have you found clients are coming to you with these type of requests?
So I haven't done any contract drafting in that area yet. The areas where I've gotten involved has been in the question of was something protectable by copyright and registrable where AI was involved. And I did have one client who like initially we didn't even realize that AI had been involved, and as we continued to have conversation, by we I mean the lawyers working on
Yep, yep.
the matter, and through continuing conversations, it came out that yes, there had been AI involvement, and that changed the situation. So it's something that now we have to also ask our clients routinely as well.
Hmm. I think the other big challenge, even if it is in the contract, is the actual enforcement. Does Peter then have to, after every project he does, somehow monitor it? You know,
Right.
um,
Yeah, that's like you would have to get someone. It's almost you need someone that's like a full-time job, or it's going to be possibly.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not all that different from probably the kinds of agreements you've had before that may have limited the rights of your client to use works if you kept creative copyright or other creative control. But it's now just going to be so much easier for somebody to do it without you knowing than in the past where
Hmm.
there might have been some effort involved. So, so it is going to be a challenge. That monitoring piece is definitely going to be a challenge in the future.
Do
And
you and
that will create jobs for people who write programs for AI to do scans and look for those kinds of
Right,
changes,
right.
which
that was going
already
to be
exist, in the IP rights monitoring world. Those kinds of things are have been around for a while and are continuing to grow, and there's no end in sight for that.
the thing that came to mind for me was ADA and this huge industry that's come up where it's companies are literally being built around going and looking at sites
Mhm.
and then suing them for not having all the compliance that they need. And so I'm wondering if this is going to be another one of those industries that comes up where people are going to be searching sites to see, has AI been used in a way that it's taken from somewhere else, which is sort of the default, right? And how to then tie it, and then will there be a lawsuit?
And I think, as I said, I think we are heading in that direction. Another area where it's been around for a while outside of the AI context, although now I imagine there's AI tools employed in the
Mm-hmm.
searching and monitoring, is there are companies that are looking at websites, typically business websites, for photos that they didn't have the right to use. And
Mm-hmm.
there are law firms that have, I'm not a fan of these law firms, but there are
Yeah.
law firms that have built their business model on going after, uh, small business websites that may not have realized that they shouldn't just take a photo and put it on their website. Side note, that anybody who has taken photos that they didn't own the rights to, like just by lifting them from the
Mm-hmm.
internet, should go and take those down right away. And not do it again. If you're going to put up stock images, use a reputable photo stock imaging site and keep your records showing that you purchased a license. Again, not to get too far off topic, but it does circle back to where we are. I've had a client who had 2 times had one of these trolls contact them
Mm-hmm.
saying, you're using this photo without permission, pay us a couple $1,000s. And in both cases, we were able to show we had a license.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
uh, where AI comes into play, so there's already this monitoring going on for that and this trolling. And now with the AI possibilities, I think it may explode exponentially.
Yeah, there's no that and you could do the same thing potentially, right? And I don't know how it would be proven, but you can go to one of these stock image sites,
Yeah.
find a nice paid image that you want to use, take a screenshot, drop it into Chat
Mhm.
GPT. They create one that looks just like this, that's not this, and
Yeah.
drop it in.
Mhm.
And again, I think we wind up in a similar question of like, how is this, and how do we police that, right? Because in theory, nobody has access to my Chat GPT history, so there's no way they can know.
Hmm.
So it's tricky. It's tricky,
Right.
and
And, and
for the
there are
next,
arguments that if you've done that and you've changed it enough that it's no longer recognizable as the original, is that copyright infringement? The answer to that is probably no, it's not. But this is not intended to be legal advice for anybody's specific situation.
yes.
This is just discussing in general terms.
And I'll ask you another question, Peter, which is, you know, in the digital marketing, design, development world, like, are these conversations that are coming up amongst your peers? Are these things that people are concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading articles and trying to get more information, but internally with my team, we're using it just to kind of enhance what we're doing right now. I'm not super concerned about like losing my job tomorrow or losing work, but yeah, potentially down the road things could change, but we're using them as enhancing what we're doing currently. Like when Josh was showing the HTML, like there's certain things that just makes development quicker. You can do these prompts and kind of it just helps out the developer. Um, from a design perspective, I mean, I still like what a human puts out more than what is being put out by ChatGPT, as Josh has shown. Um, but we're using it. We're in the mind frame like it's going to enhance what we're doing. I mean, even um, using AI to get leads and clients and sales, kind of. There's a bunch of tools that are helping with that now. So um, it's just kind of another tool in the arsenal, I think, for us. Um, but
Right.
yeah,
One of the companies I was working with, their focus was on using AI to enhance development. And the numbers they were putting up were astronomical. 40% increase in productivity, and not just productivity, but also quality,
yeah,
right? So all the bugs that you might have, or all the errors that you might have from, hand coded materials, with AI, you're finding much less.
mhm,
And so, I mean, 40% is a crazy number. And
yeah,
that was early on. That was when they were just starting to really push it. And so my guess, and building custom tools inside of AI just for this purpose.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's kind of also personally some decreased stress level for me. There's certain
mhm.
things that it took me forever to figure out, whether it be like an Excel formula or some code that I was looking to do personally, not with a developer, that took me sometimes hours. And now it takes me so much less. And it's just like there's like a relief. Like, oh, I could do this, and why didn't I do it this way? And it's definitely uh, that lessens anxiety and increases productivity.
So,
And
I mean, we may not ever lose our jobs. Where it's going to go in the future, it's going to be, I think, a pretty seismic shift
Yeah, for sure.
in how people work. I think there will be jobs for people, but they're just going to be different from
yeah,
from the jobs that have
Yeah.
existed,
And it's happening so fast with just I mean, a couple of years ago this didn't exist. What was it, maybe 2, 3 years ago this kind of
Mhm.
came out of nowhere. I feel like it just came out of left field. And now it's just so fast what's happening.
yeah. I mean, I remember when people at the company I was at were sharing about Chat GPT, and I was like, the what is it now? The
Yeah,
GP what?
yeah, right.
And the next thing I know, I'm like running training programs for this thing in this company, and I'm watching the Will Smith spaghetti video. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but one of the early AI video creations was and that I mean it picked up. It was Will Smith eating a plate of spaghetti, and
Hmm.
it was janky and glitchy, and it was really a mess.
Mhm.
And I just, like, a couple weeks ago, saw the updated version. I mean, I'm sure there are copyright issues or infringement issues or publicity issues there. um, you can't tell it's not him. You can't
Yeah,
tell it's not a real plate of food. It's just advancing so quickly.
Jimmy
yeah.
Kimmel is now doing this bit where he talks to his younger self. He'll have a
Okay.
clip of him from his show from, I guess he's been on maybe 20 years already. He'll
Okay.
have
Hmm.
a clip from like 18 years ago, and they've manipulated whatever he was saying live on air at the time uh, to come out to be more an actual conversation with Jimmy Kimmel
Mm,
today.
Wow.
And it looks almost maybe like a slight bit not quite human and real, but
Yeah.
it's very close.
Yeah.
So we're
It's an
so we're 6 months
entertaining
away.
bit. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
right. Six
Yeah,
months away.
we're
Right.
probably 6 months away. Yeah.
Right. Right.
It's wild.
At least there, everybody owns like, there's no issue of who owns the rights. Is-
Right. Right. And how about you, Laura? Are you leveraging AI in your business, in your personal life, outside of things Jimmy Kimmel related?
So I'm using it tremendously in my practice now. We're not currently using a closed system that enables us to really full out use it because we have to
Okay.
worry about client confidentiality. I
Right.
can't take the facts of a case, plug it into ChatGPT and say, write a brief because of the confidentiality issues. Where I am using it is to create templates and I used it to create outlines for presentations I was doing and PowerPoints um, it, you can tell it the tone. I mean, it's just fascinating. You tell it the tone you want and it will really come close to, what you're looking for. Everything needs to be reviewed and edited. Um, and to write articles and in my personal life to now you can't do a Google search without getting their AI summary, so yeah, of course, in my personal life as well. And it's staggering how fast it's happened.
Yeah.
You may have heard the stories about a number of lawyers had it draft briefs and didn't make sure the cases were real. And you would think after the first time or two that happened, it would stop happening. And my brother he's not a lawyer, texted me the other day and said, why are lawyers still doing this?
Yeah.
If they keep getting caught. I think lawyers tend to generally be somewhat tech adverse and you mentioned ethics before. There's an ethics obligation if you're a member of the New York Bar, and I think many other states have this too, where you have to keep up with technology. It's a requirement.
Mm.
But I think a number of lawyers are not fully keeping up with the tech, and that's how they keep, getting caught with these mistakes. They don't realize that not everything that comes out of the internet is true,
Yeah.
and they roll
And
with.
I'm sure it was a hard lesson.
Yeah, yeah, the
Um,
sanctions have been kind of brutal,
Wow.
having to
Yeah.
write letters of apology to everybody involved, and also the fact that every time it happens, it's a public story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done some work with lawyers, I've done some work with wealth managers and CPAs, and certainly it's another thing to consider that these are industries that have a lot more regulation. I know some of the big players in the legal space, like Westlaw and Lexis, are rolling out their own AI tools, which I've heard mixed reviews about.
Yeah, and this is why we have not adopted any of them quite yet.
And are also quite expensive.
Right, there's
Mm.
that too.
Yeah.
It can't come for your jobs if it's gonna cost more than what you would be, charging.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful I'm hopeful, and I sort of expect that these tools are going to get better and better. And I think that these are the kind of tools that are going to give firms significant advantage over the competition, because if you can be actually pulling together entire briefs in moments and be able to access, the case law that are in these systems already, but in 100th of the time. Sorry, this cat loves being on
I
You want to
usually
say a
have a
proper
cat with
hello?
me, but I'm
Hi,
on a
cat.
Zoom
I've seen
call
it
from
before.
home, but they haven't bothered me right now.
Yeah.
Nice to see the cat flash in and out there.
Yes, yes. Um, okay. Is there anything else that is burning or that we wanted to bring up in this conversation?
I just wanted to mention one last thing, which is that the current administration recently terminated the head of the Copyright Office, and I think it had to do with her position on where we're going with AI,
Mhm.
because she was in favor of some more, regulation as far as, AI
Right.
training. There have been a number of issues. This is a little bit off topic, but number of issues where there's suits going on over using copyrighted material for training the large language models. So that's sort of created another wrinkle in this whole thing, is that the person who was instrumental in getting the recent reports done is now no longer at the Copyright Office, and that the landscape may go differently from how we might have thought as a result.
Does it seem like it's going to be sort of much more lenient? Is that
That's where I think we're probably heading, and the big beautiful bill also has that provision that prohibits states from making any regulations of AI for 10 years or something like that. So
Wow,
this
that's a long
administration is
time.
clearly in favor of the charging forward with AI.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
wow. 10 years, that's a long, long time.
Mhm.
That's
Especially with AI.
infinity in the AI world. It
Who knows
seems.
what
We're
we're
gonna
going to
have
be in
AI
10 years.
robots by then,
We have AI robots.
right?
I don't know if you've seen Boston Dynamics, and I mean
Not
they
recently,
had
but yeah, yeah,
ChatGPT early. They already had it going. They had a
right,
robot
right,
dog giving tours of their facility,
right.
and
Amazing.
I just remember they like changed the personality midway. It went from like almost like a butler to like a snarky teenager, and I mean it was
Was that
just
just the
phenomenal.
AI learning, or was that part of the programming?
I think that was built in, I mean, ChatGPT, if you use the audio, you can pick the personality of the person that you're talking with. And then even within that, you can change it. Early on when the new audio function came out, I was playing it with my wife, and we were doing things like, my wife is from Brazil, and so we were doing things like speak in a southern US accent, but speak Portuguese and like tell us a joke. And it was phenomenal.
Oh,
And then we
wow.
kept saying like switch between English and Portuguese, and it was doing it seamlessly. Now you see Google just announced that Google Meet is going to have live in conversation translation on Google Meet. I think they're rolling it out for just Spanish now, but again, give it 6 months.
And that's a
Yeah,
big game changer in doing business worldwide.
Everything,
yeah,
everything. I
yeah,
think I think my mother-in-law doesn't speak English, and so my Portuguese is okay. Certainly leaves something to be desired, but if going forward, I can just say I could have the conversation I'm having with you guys right now, and it'll just automatically translate, and whatever she says does the same. Wowza,
yeah,
wowza.
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
So okay, I think I think this is an okay place to hit pause on this conversation. So I want to thank both of you for joining and your insights. And
Thank you.
Yeah,
anything
thank you.
else? Okay, great. Let me